Hello and welcome to this preview of the Banker's Top 1000 World Bank ranking for 2017. Key changes this year are a big recovery in the fortunes of emerging market banks, many of which took a battering last year. Middle East banks have also done well despite falls in the oil price and fears about how this would impact on their balance sheets. But in Europe, there's continuing turmoil, with the Italian banking sector running up huge losses and ongoing problems in Greece and Portugal. In the UK, the major banks have slipped further down the ranking, partially as a result of falls in the value of sterling due to fears over Brexit. On the other hand, UK challenger banks have fared better, with Metro Bank climbing 187 places and with several challenger banks entering the ranking for the first time. So let's start with the overall top 10, showing the Chinese banks retaining their strong position. ICBC remains number 1 for the 5th year running. China Construction Bank stays second and Bank of China is 4th. Agricultural Bank of China has slipped from 5th to 6th, changing places with Bank of America, which increased its Tier 1 capital, the key measure of the top 1,000, by 5%. Just outside the top 10 is China's Bank of Communications, which with a 10% capital uplift has moved from 13th to 11th. If this trend continues, we may even see 5 Chinese banks in next year's top 10. But not everything is plain sailing for top Chinese banks. The 5 largest all experienced falls in profits, reflecting a tougher economic environment in China. In fact, only 2 banks in the top 10 increased their profits. JP Morgan, which placed 3rd by Tier 1 capital, increased its profits 12%, while Bank of America, in 5th place, increased profits by 14%. US banks as a whole increased their profits by 4%, comparing well with China's, which fell 5%, and Japan's, which fell 12%. But while Chinese profits stalled, the other BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, and India, have performed much better. In Brazil and Russia, economic recovery has helped bank profits increase 179% in Brazil and an impressive 369% in Russia. Russia's state-owned Sberbank did especially well. It climbed 15 places to 36 in the ranking on the back of a 47% increase in capital. In Brazil, leading bank Itaú went from 57th place to 50th with a 37% increase in capital. The banking scene in India is more of a mixed picture, with overall profits up 26% but widely varying individual performances. A strong showing in India came from Yes Bank, up 129 places to 271 in the ranking on the back of a 78% uplift in capital. There was good news from the Middle East, where banks were expected to be under pressure due to oil price falls. In fact, their results are better than in the 2014 ranking, when oil prices were above $100 a barrel. Profits in the United Arab Emirates increased $2 billion over that period, while capital was up nearly 40%. Profits in both Qatar and Saudi Arabia increased by $1 billion, while the capital uplift was 71% in Qatar and 38% in Saudi. This is great news for investors, as they're enjoying good returns with the security of a solid capital base. But for the best returns of all in global banking, we now turn to Africa, where the markets are still expanding and margins are healthy. The return on capital in Africa is 27%, only matched by South America's 26%. Most of the rest of the world, Asia, North America, the Middle East, is looking at returns on capital within a range of 13 to 16%, except for one region, which is an outlier for all the wrong reasons. Western Europe's return on capital is a paltry 6%, and many banks in the region are underperforming. The Banker's table of the 10 highest loss-making banks globally highlights this problem. All 10 banks are from Europe, and 4 are from Italy, the country with the most severe difficulties. Italy's Unicredit fell 16 places in the overall ranking to 45th and recorded a $10.9 billion loss, the highest in the top 1,000 universe. Overall, Italian banks lost $16.3 billion, the highest loss of any country. Greek banks reduced their losses from 14 billion to just under 3 billion, but in Portugal the situation got worse, with losses increasing from 391 million to 3.7 billion. Not all the news in Europe is bad. Most French banks are strong, with 6 players producing nearly $40 billion of profits, or about 30% of the European total. Germany, on the other hand, has 22 banks in the ranking, making only 4.4 billion in profits, about 10% of the French figure. UK profits of 17 billion, 32% less than last year, are considerably below those of French banks and put the UK 10th in a list of countries with the largest profits, down from 7th place previously. UK banks have been hit by a slowing economy, together with the fall of the value of sterling since the country voted to leave the European Union. The domestic-focused banks, Royal Bank of Scotland fell from 19th to 30th, and Lloyds from 24th to 35th. But even UK banks with an international focus and so less affected by the value of sterling have not done well. HSBC, which reports in dollars, held steady in 9th place, but its capital fell 10% and profits by 62%. Barclays slipped a place to 18th and saw its capital fall 10% in dollar terms. One interesting development in the UK is the rise of the challenger banks. Metro Bank rose 187 places to the 782nd position, and 2 challenger banks entered the ranking for the first time, Aldermore and One Savings, with one other, Shawbrook, returning. While still small, these banks are providing some much needed competition in the sector. The Banker's Top 1000 World Banks contains a wealth of information with breakdowns by country and by region, by return on capital, by loan to deposit, by non-performing loans and cost-to-income ratios, among many other measures. The rankings will appear in the July issue, along with commentary from the Banker's team of editors on what the rankings mean in terms of banking trends. Bankers from around the globe will be studying their form in the Banker's Top 1000 rankings. Anyone wishing to order a copy of the July issue can do so at top1000worldbanks.com. The Top 1000 ranking is taken from the Banker database, which contains a wider range of data on many more banks than appear in the published ranking. Anyone wishing to subscribe to the full database can do so at thebankerdatabase.com. And for those who would like to see what the database can provide, we're offering a free trial. Further details can be found at the end of this video.